My name is Campbell. I'm the head of 3D at Rising Sun Pictures, based in Adelaide, in Australia. And my role as head of 3D encompasses looking after the pipeline and really looking at what appropriate technology we should use within the studio and where we should invest in developing our own tool sets and technologies versus buying off-the-shelf software. The recent projects we've been working on include Journey to the Mysterious Island, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, and Green Lantern, all released this summer. And in the last year or so, we've gone from being a facility that has worked entirely in mono to being a stereo facility where every project is now stereo capable and nearly all of them are delivered in stereo as well. Well, really in the last couple of years the complexity of the scenes that we're dealing with has just increased over and over again, while the time frame that we've got to work in them has got shorter and shorter. So now we have to, the amount of data that we need to light and particularly lighting and rendering a scene for a particular shot is now much more than you could encompass in a single Maya scene. So really incorporating that complexity in an interactive environment for lighters is one of the big challenges. And also, but this goes back into animation as well, where we've often, rather than a couple of years ago you had one or two CG characters in a shot, now we have a CG environment, 4 or 5 characters, all of which need animating, and they all interact together. So it's delivering something that is tractable and manipulable easily for an artist to use, while still encompassing an awful lot of complexity in that scene. And in the last year or so we've been developing in-house tools to deal with that level of complexity at Rising Sun, and also taking advantage of software like Mari, which enables us to texture much larger objects than we would have previously been capable of. Mari in particular is much more suitable for dealing with many high-resolution texture maps, whereas more traditionally we use Photoshop, which, while it's a very good piece of software, isn't ideal for dealing with large numbers of very large textures. Really, it always comes down to cost to some extent, and we have to satisfy the client. So if we have a in-house solution that has already been developed, we will probably go that way. Something like crowd work, where we have gone with Massive, whereas previously we have used our own in-house software, because the cost of training people to use our in-house software, particularly when we had to bring in new staff in a short space of time and get them up to speed with that software, the cost of training them was actually quite high. Whereas with short deadlines and a piece of known industry software like Massive, we can go out and hire people who are already familiar with using it, bring them in, and they can be productive much more quickly. So it's a mixture of the cost of the external software versus the cost of developing it, and how that fits in with our schedule. Because obviously if you're developing a piece of software from scratch, it might maybe 3 months before you'll have anything that an artist can use. And with that's, if you're developing a feature film, then that might well fit in. An animated feature that might fit into your time scale. If you've only got 4 months to do all your post-production, then clearly that's not going to be good enough. So you've got to make some compromises between the artistic quality that you can achieve and the time scale that you can achieve it in.